Neha Gupta is a two-time international best-selling author, top 100 teen expert around the world, TEDx speaker, and serial entrepreneur, creating the Shortcuts empire on helping students get into their dream school. Over the last 12 years, she has built elite private tutors college shortcuts, medical shortcuts, law school shortcuts, grad school shortcuts, and MBA shortcuts, with the mission to serve families and make parents' lives easier every day, while 95% of families get into their dream school. She has helped tens of thousands of students get into their dream school and won't stop until every child gets that acceptance letter. She has built a school in Africa, been endorsed by Dr. Shafali Sabari, the world-leading parenting expert by Oprah, and families around the world interview to work with one of their companies for limited spots. She has been featured on ABC as an expert for teenagers, NBC, CBS, The Washington Post, Parents Magazine, and even coined the female that helps students get 6 figures in scholarships, according to Student Loan Hero. Welcome to her latest creation, Dream School TV, where she brings in the best experts and guests on admissions and gives the latest trends and tips. Take it away.
Hi everyone, this is Neha Gupta with Dream School TV. I am so excited about today. I've got Nat Janji on here. She's a 3-time author. She's incredible. I've interviewed her in the past, but I'm so excited today because we're going to be talking a little bit about her own experiences with the college admissions process and her experiences beyond that. Yay, Natalie, for having you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So Natalie, one of the things I want to talk about, because I think a lot of parents don't realize this, is how challenging the admissions process can be. So quick question, did your parents go to school here?
No. Only my mom, she did a little bit of community college, but beyond that, no. I mean, but she had a degree, but basically it's back home in Syria, right? But like, my brother and I were the first people to go through the process, and my brother is older than me, and he decided to go the community college route, so he didn't have to go through the admissions process. So technically, I was the first person to kind of experience that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And similar to me, actually, in the sense that like my parents both are not from here. They didn't go to school here. And so when it came to me and my sister, they were like, I think we'll just read something online, which I don't even know what they were doing because the internet was barely there or what they were reading. You know what I mean? Like there's no videos like this being created during this time. So let's talk a little bit about your experience. You and I actually both went to private schools as well. Yeah. Parents also thought education was like very important, right?
Yeah, and my mom was like, you know, for me it was like going to a Catholic school. I went to Catholic school all my life, and then I ended up going to an all-girl Catholic private school for high school. My graduating class was 96 people.
Wow. Yeah, my grade was, I think, 110.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just really small
Yeah.
environments.
Yeah, where, you know, where they promise more support because the student to teacher ratio is smaller.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that. With the college admissions process, how many schools did you apply to?
I applied to 17 schools.
What was some of the more competitive ones on your list, if you don't mind me asking?
I think I applied to basically all California schools, so which included Stanford. I think I just clicked off all the UCs. I hadn't visited any of them, but I was like, well, I can just check them off. So I was like, boom, 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 boom. USC. UCLA was already in there. But yeah, it was more a bunch of UCs and a bunch of private schools, I guess. So yeah, I can't really remember.
Okay, great. Yeah. So Stanford was in there. There's definitely some challenging schools, and some of the UC schools are actually quite challenging to get into.
Yes,
compared to the other ones.
Oh, and the like Claremont McKenna. I can't remember.
I applied to Claremont McKenna too.
Yeah, the Claremont school. I think Pitzer, Claremont McKenna,
Pomona.
Yeah. So
Harvey Mudd.
Harvey Mudd, yeah.
Yep. I remember that college visit because my parents were like, oh gosh, if she goes to California, she'll become a hip hop dancer and she'll be a backup dancer for some rapper and then we'll just lose her. And I remember when I went to visit, I know, right? I know. My parents had the weirdest. If you're watching and if you have these weird views, don't worry, we actually don't turn out so bad in the end. Okay? So in terms of when I visited, it was funny because I remember just visiting and then realizing I didn't want to go, but I still went through the whole process of the tour of like interviewing and but in my interview, I had such a good time because I wasn't stressed at all. I didn't feel like anything was on the line. Nice. And I remember when I walked out, my parents were like, you laughed a lot in that interview. Like you were having a very good time. what's going on? I was like, well, I'm just not going here. So I just had a great time. And they like even wrote an email to my parents later on being like, one of the best interviews we've ever had. And it was because I wasn't stressed about the outcome, which if you watch my TEDx talk, I tell you that achievement is about the journey, not the end result. So let's talk a little bit about that. So you applied to over 17 schools, you were trying to get the applications done, et cetera. Did you get someone kind of like what we do here in the application process where someone sat you down, looked at your college list, looked at your scores, went through to help you find your unique angle on what you've done, and then help you draft your essays, and someone that's been in the admissions offices before and edit them and then build your resume and all, like just the start to finish?
I know that what you guys do is incredible. We had support because it was such a small school. We had 2 admissions counselors that were helping us go through our college applications. Mind you, I still had a lot to do and a lot to learn because it was my first time doing it. Basically, everyone in our school was expected to apply. I think that's apply to colleges. That's the expectation of going to a small private school, right? Like they promise the parents like your kid's going to 4-year, like
of course,
right?
Yes.
So, but for me that was terrifying because I was like, literally everyone I know has gone to community college.
Wow.
Yeah, but I didn't want to go through that. I didn't want to go that route just because of how there are too many students, and a lot of students have difficult getting the classes they want and need, and college takes over 5-6 years for them, which I didn't want. I just wanted to finish in 4 years. So I did get support. There were teachers on campus that would happily overlook your resumes, and in the beginning they did look at my grades and my scores, and they gave me basically a reach schools, some schools that I could definitely get accepted in, and like kind of lowballing. They gave me like 3 categories, and it was like kind of offensive, right? In the sense where I was like, well, if I want to get into that school, like I really want to get in, right? But like, right. It was weird because I was like, I don't want to be labeled by my scores, but that's kind of how that process is. But that's beyond the point. I think they supported us paperwork-wise. Did I receive guidance on the different angles and the topics I could go through? I don't think as much as I could. I think we all assumed like go deep on like a volunteer story or share something that's been super impactful. But I don't know. All I remember is that it was super stressful, very competitive, and like there were students crying all the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's horrible. Especially at a smaller school where, first of all, we all know private school education is expensive, right? But not even just that, but the level of stress that you guys are feeling. You know, this is the part that I hate to hear because I think it should be fun applying to college.
That's great. I did not experience that.
She's like, what? No. I mean, okay.
Between early action, early decision, like all these different things. I mean, it's just like looking at Mount Everest and being like, I don't know how to take this first step, right? And then like I remember I turned in and I was anxious, right? Like I was going, because I didn't know what was going to happen, right? So I had a lot of anxiety around the entire process. I remember there were some schools I turned in the application maybe a few hours before the deadline, right? Which is like, yeah, like I was like, okay, well, it's kind of due today, just finish it up and send it. Which is a very like, it's not, you don't expect to like get into a lot of schools that way at all with that kind of thing. I definitely wish I had someone like holding my hand or telling me like, hey, like these are your strengths, like you should capitalize on this. Or like, oh, this school might be good for you, right? Considering these are your values and it kind of fits in with their mission statement. I only got that after the results of the schools came in, right? So the results for me is I applied to 17 schools. I only got accepted into 2 schools and I got waitlisted to 2 schools. So, and the only thing I really knew is that I wanted to go to a private college. And I only got accepted into one private college, which was LMU.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was very much like let go, let God kind of like that entire year of application, because I didn't know what I was doing, but only after talking to a teacher were they like, hey, like you're passionate about social justice, you know, the Jesuit philosophy is very much about social justice, that's actually a good fit. And it's like, okay, maybe it worked out.
Yeah. Well, of course. I will say, like, to apply to that many schools and then to only get into 2, to me, that would be a little disheartening.
Yeah, I remember coming home to like the running joke. So, well, I didn't drive. So like every time my mom picked me up from high school and I would just go into the car, I'm like, hey, how many small envelopes did I get today? And she's like, 3. I'm like, okay. And so I'd get home and then I'd open it and it's like, cool, know this, know that, know that. And then you just have to move forward. Because like.
Yeah. So it's just, I hate hearing this. It like makes me cringe to hear this because Natalie's such a freaking rock star. And it's like, if I had had my grips on you while you were applying, like we would have had such a better rate. Not that you weren't supposed to go where you ended up. I'm not saying that, like, if no regrets. It's not what I'm saying.
0 regrets.
But what I'm saying is, I think, first of all, as someone who does experience anxiety, wouldn't it have been so nice to just have someone by your side, like, no stress, like you were done with them before school started? Before your senior year, you would have been done with your applications. Do you realize that could have been possible?
That sounds amazing. But here's the thing. I didn't even visit any of the schools. I had never visited any of the schools before applying to them. I visited LMU only after I got accepted. Like, how are you supposed to win that way? Like, I could have applied to less schools. I could have been more deliberate. You know, there are so many advantages to visiting to schools, or I know the way you do it is you offer videos of students who have gone to those schools before, right? Some kind of insight into, right? Like, I was just checking off boxes. So,
yeah. And then also just even doing it like up near deadline, like to me that would just be someone who has anxiety, like that would just be one way to like stir it up even more.
I mean, it's like I was stressed from school and stressed from applications, not to mention just the fact that like, holy crap, like school's ending, I'm about to start college and I don't know what that life is like. Yeah, there are a lot of levels. I mean, being like nearing the end of high school, there's a lot, it's a very critical point, right? Like there's a lot happening there.
Massive.
Subsurface.
Emotionally. Mentally.
Yep.
Spiritually. You're about to leave your house.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a big time.
Yeah. And so I wasn't equipped for any of that. So that's probably why I ended up in this position where I now like help students, you know, have a morning routine so that they're able to gain more self-awareness, right? Like I'm in the place I am because of all the things I didn't know and had to learn myself.
Exactly.
But like, yeah, I definitely wish I had some support.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the thing. It's like, and I feel like one of the things people don't realize is, and the reason why I find this so powerful is Natalie and I both went to private school. If you went to public school, we were looking at what, 3,000 or 1,000 people in a grade, maybe a counselor, maybe. So to me, it's like, how are we supporting our students when a student like this, who's co-authored, 3 different books, who's, just totally a rock star, but at that critical moment was feeling stress, anxiety, wasn't sure about the process, only got into 2, of which 1 was a private school. Like that's, to me, almost like hanging on a thread with what your future could have been. Yeah. And your parents didn't go to college here either, just like mine didn't. Mm-hmm. And so they were just probably like, okay, like my parents' first language wasn't English. Yeah, so asking them to edit my essays was like,
it's not a reality.
It's just not a reality. Yeah. Like my dad tried a lot with my English papers, and I would always be like, Dad, that's not where the comma goes. Like
my dad couldn't even. If anything, it would have been my mom because she like majored in English back home. But even then, like her English wasn't that great. Like coming to the U.S. So family support wise, like I was the first person because I have older cousins too, right? And they went to a school right next to home, like a Cal State or Like they didn't go through I was the
Yeah, but
first
this is the
person
thing.
in my family to go through any kind of application process.
Right. But I will tell you, even Natalie, I had older cousins too that went to UNC Chapel Hill, Columbia University, NYU, MIT, Babson. And I will tell you that even with that, it's not like they have the knowledge of what the competition is in the year that I was applying. Like my cousin who's applied to Columbia, she's like 15 years older. Like when she applied again, there was a huge gap. Internet was not there when she applied.
It's only it's only getting harder. And so like a running internal dialogue that all these students have during that time is that they're not enough, right? And so having someone to have told them like, hey, like you are going to be enough and more than enough for a really awesome school, you know, and like having some kind of support to have gotten them to that school or to have just supported them along the way to been like, hey, like this rejection doesn't mean anything.
Of course.
Or like, hey, like you, like your, like these acceptances don't determine your self-worth. Like your grades don't determine your self-worth. Like you yourself are more than enough. Let's get you to an awesome school that will give you awesome financial help and like let's go.
Yeah, so it's interesting you say that because my goal, honestly, with college shortcuts, and of course we've now launched into MBA, grad school, law, med school as well, so we're helping these students at these, what I call, I love the way you described it, it's a critical point is the best way to say it, right? Like it's that step and that leap that can make all the difference. You know, Natalie, I do believe, before I go into this, I do believe that if you went to community college, I think you'd be a different person.
Of course, yeah.
You know? So to me, it's like, I think the college choice really does matter. And, you know, when it comes to college shortcuts and all of our shortcuts that we do, we love being able to get it done before that last year. Because first of all, the last year of school is the most challenging academically.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. All the APs are going on, all the honors. That's first. Second of all, everyone's starting to talk about a bunch of stuff. And they might be like, oh, let me look at your essay. Let me, you know, no. August 1st is when a lot of these applications open. We submit our applications and we're done. We don't talk about it anymore. And the thing I love about it is we get such good essays with these students and we have such a fun time. Like she mentioned stress, anxiety, and crying. Like there's no crying. I have yet to hear that a client cried working with us. Like that's not okay to me. That's to experience like fear and experience like that extreme of an emotion around this process. You don't need to if you have someone guiding you through the way. But it's really fun when we're all said and done because the students look at the application when they're done and they're like, dude, these essays are like the bomb. This describes me so well. I'm like, I know, because the whole point is to make this compelling argument about why you're so awesome. Because you are awesome, but it's about packaging it, which my parents were definitely not like amazing at packaging anything, right? So where was I going to get that support in the process? Yeah. So I love it when we can get it all said and done. And the last thing I want a student really to say is, honestly, this university is lucky to have me. That's how I feel every student should feel in the admissions process.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a fresh breath of air,
yes. Right?
For someone who might look at their peers not getting that support and just kind of like crushing in their own like emotions or whatnot. Exactly. Like to feel like, hey, like I'm set, I'm good to go. There's nothing to really worry about, and I'm awesome, right? Like that's like peak emotional state for a student. Yeah. So that's amazing.
I know, and you have recently launched in the last few months the Do Not Worry campaign, and to me, I really resonate with that because I don't want people to worry about this stuff.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Essentially, because like during high school, during college, I had a lot of things I was worried about, whether it was my academics, my health, or what life is like after high school, after college, right? There's always something I was worried about. And so anytime I asked for support, I got a lot of this response. Like, hey, don't worry, it's all gonna be okay. Or like, don't worry, you'll figure it out. Or I think like the worst one was like, hey, it'll work itself out. I was like, it'll work itself out? Like, are you kidding?
Yeah, like someone will just magically hit the submit button for your applications, right? Like magically work out.
Yeah. It's just I was like really dumbfounded by that response. And I think like it was just a little tweak in my head. I was like, every time I don't worry about something, I end up worrying more.
Of course.
Yeah. Like just the act of me suppressing any kind of thing that I'm worried about, afraid about, like if I'm doubting myself and I'm not trying to think of that, it's only amplifying it and it's getting worse. Yes. So I decided to kind of like change the language around that. So instead of the phrase that I think is the least helpful of all, don't worry, I wanted to change the focus on not worrying to do not worry. There's a comma there. Do, comma, not worry.
Yes.
So basically the way it's been done is that someone's told you not to worry. But what really should happen is, hey, let's figure out what you should do to not worry. Right?
Yes.
So kind of this helpful step where only by doing something can you not worry about it.
Correct.
So it's this mantra that I created and kind of like a tool for myself because I found myself anxious daily, right? It happens every day. And so like I was like, how am I gonna help myself? Right? Like am I gonna reach out to someone every time I'm feeling anxious, right? Like, are they gonna be available? Like, yes, I have good friends, but like I can't call them every time I'm anxious, right? So yeah, I just kind of developed this meditation and you could do it real quick with me. Okay. So here's what I do. Whenever I get in those states, I just say, do, not worry. Do, not worry. And I do that over and over again until my mind clears up, until those thoughts just kind of pause. And in that clear state, I'm able to figure out what I need to do to not worry. It's just like this internal, like your internal wisdom just kind of shows up. But you have to silence that lizard mind first. They call it the lizard mind when it's just overthinking and like negative thoughts, right? You have to pause that first. And so that's why the meditation piece is in there. And so my whole thing is I want to empower people when they're feeling the most anxious, when they're feeling the most helpless, hopeless, yes. Right? Like I want to give them this simple tool. Like it's not mine, it's everyone's. Like I want to share it with you. I want to share it with everyone. So that's what you need to do anytime you feel like any kind of state, right? Fearful, doubtful, anxious, you're worried, right? These are the states where you want to pause. And so that's like, and there's always situations where you can do something and situations where you can't do something.
Right.
And when you can do something, you go and do it because only by doing can you overcome that worry. But in situations where you can't do something, right? So like recently my dad was in the hospital. And so well, he's doing better now, but it was during Christmas time. It sucked. I felt helpless, right? And so I just kept thinking, I'm like, okay, well, what can I do, right? Like I can't heal my dad, right? So, you know, I kind of meditate on that and then just say like, okay, I can just kind of send prayer, right? Mm-hmm. But there's something I can do, right? I can meditate. I can take care of myself. I can go for a walk. But whatever it is, it always comes back to do, not worry. And so I find myself using this phrase every day. And I've just been getting so many messages from people saying how much it's helped them in moments where they really needed it. Because it's not just those moments, but it's how quickly they're able to get out of those fearful states, right? I don't want to waste your time. Like, I want you to live an amazing life. I don't want you to live in a worried state.
I know, because the worried state is like such a frustrating place, and it's the biggest emotion we deal with at College Shortcuts and all the other ones with all of these families that come at us that are saying, you know what, I'm just worried my kid won't get in. I don't know if this is going to happen. And I agree. I'm like, let's do something. Don't worry about it. Do not worry. And by the way, just so you guys know, I took a moment to take that breath and it made a big difference. I feel completely different. So.
It feels good.
It does.
Yeah.
So guys, I'm so excited to have Natalie on today. I hope you got that amazing tool. If you're interested in learning more, feel free to go to collegeshortcuts.com. If you're applying to any of those other admissions programs, we've got MBA shortcuts, grad school shortcuts, law school shortcuts, and medschoolshortcuts.com. Fill out the application. We'd love to help you not worry and just do. And of course, if you want to find out more about Natalie, you can go to nataliejanji.com, as well as check out her books on Amazon for Miracle Morning for College Students and The Companion Planner. Thank you so much for joining us on Dream School TV, and we hope to see you soon. Bye.